live Q&A. Um, my name is Tracy Matson. I'm a certified professional dog trainer, and we are trying a different day and time this week, um, just to see if it's more convenient for more people. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm here to answer all of your training and behavior questions. If this is your first time joining, when you uh, use the chat, please tell me your name and where you're from, just like state or country. And that enters you into the drawing for a free bag of Pupford training treats. Sometimes, depending on which platform you are on, sometimes it just comes up Facebook user. So that's why I need your name and state so that I can enter you into the drawing. So I actually made it on time. Hey Julie, oh I'm glad that you could make it. I was worried that some of my regular Wednesday night people wouldn't be able to make it. So I'm glad that Julie is here. Um, so yeah, I posted something. I didn't know if I was going to be able to start right at 4 because I had to go to the vet, but we made it back. So anyway, I'm really excited to be here, and it's actually lighter since we're doing this at 4 instead of 6. So this may be in the future we may do this. Although if we do it at my office, it's light because of the light. But um, so until people get on, I usually try to pick a topic to talk about, and I thought I would talk about Halloween since Halloween's coming up, and maybe how to introduce dogs and cats because I see that a lot on the Facebook page, and I just got a cat, so I'm going through the same thing that you guys are going through. So for Halloween, sometimes kids in costumes and things look really different to dogs. If you have a puppy, this is a great time to socialize, but we don't want the puppies to be scared. So, one thing that I have my clients do if they have kids or grandkids is play dress up and have the kids come down in different costumes, but we always pair it with treats. So, if the dog is afraid, then I ask the kids to back up or we back the dog up. One thing you don't want to do is hand your puppy to somebody in a costume if your puppy's scared. But I will have people like toss treats to the puppies. So if you have somebody in, let's say, a pumpkin costume, um, hey Brian, Brian, this is just a trial. I don't think it's going to be like this all the time. Um, they did a poll to see what different times people would like to have this so that more people can join. So this was what most people wanted, so that's why we're trying it this week. And then I think we'll also still have the Wednesday night one, and then we're going to try different days and times, just so that everybody can participate. But I am glad that you are here. I'm gonna write you down. Was it was it you or your wife that won last week? You guys won the Pupford treats. Um, I think it was Renee, if I remember right. Okay, so anyway, with the costume, you can have people in costume like toss treats to your dog, so that they kind of get used to that. In fact, what I have some of my puppy clients doing is we don't really have trick or treaters here anymore. They do trick or trunk, which is usually in a church or school parking lot. Hey, Renee. Um, and then the kids go around to the different cars in costume, and it's not as fun as trick or treating, I don't think, but it's safer. Um, but I've asked them to also give the kids candy or give the kids treats that are in costume and have the kids give the treats to the dog. So not only are you giving candy out to the kids, but you're asking the kids to give treats to the dog. So they are actually helping with socialization with costumes. So, hey, Nicole, see, it doesn't matter what day and time we do this. I always have my regulars, which I love. I love it that you guys join every week. Hey, Emily. Um, so that's what I was going to talk about first. And then on actual Halloween, if you have trick or treaters, and if you think it's going to be scary for your dog or if your dog's going to be reactive, a lot of times it's good to just put them in another room, put them in a crate with a chew item like a yak chew, bully stick, lick mat, something like that, just to give them something to do. And then they're not barking at the door like every 5 seconds. I have one client who's got a 7-month-old black lab, and this dog has a ton of energy. And every time I go over, number one, they're supposed to be doing door manners, and they haven't been really working on it. And so when I knock on the door, the husband is like holding the dog by the collar and literally holding her back. Um, so we practice door manners a lot, but I cannot imagine having that dog out on Halloween if they do like neighborhood trick or treat. So Nicole, Wilma is going to dress up and go to trunk or treat and do some of her tricks for the kids. Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. Um, so we don't really in my neighborhood we don't do trick or treating anymore. They do trick or trunk, and but Sunday one of my friends is doing. She has a nonprofit rescue, and she's doing a Halloween event. So um, my Three Little Pits dog training group is going to be there. We're going to have a booth there, and the girl that works with me, her mom makes these awesome like sugar cookies that it's like the only sugar I eat anymore, but I can't resist them. And so we're making, well, not we, she is making sugar cookies shaped like dog bones, and then we're going to attach our cards and like just give them away to people that come. But Willy Wonka is going to be there in his cart dressed as a pumpkin, and Jade is going as a devil because she is kind of, a little devil sometimes. And those are the only two I'm taking because Caitlin will have her brought as well, so that's three. Um, Julie, my idea was to take out my dogs trick or treating with the kids for an hour or two, then come back, put them in the crate because they'll be tired, and then go back out with the kids. That's a great idea. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think even before they started to do trick or trunk, not a lot of kids came to my house because I have pit bulls, and a lot of the kids around here are terrified of my dogs, even though they're super friendly. The kids that would come were kids that took music lessons from me, and so they knew my dogs. But now they pretty much just do trick or trunk. So, um, I should go do trick or trunk um, with my dogs and see how many kids dare to come to my car with my kitties. I mean, I wouldn't take all of them because I've got four, but it would be very interesting. Um, so, if nobody has questions, the other thing I was going to talk about is introducing dogs and cats. Um, so, when I worked in rescue, all of my dogs had been to work with me and been around loose cats. Jade has gone to a rescue with me where one of my friends works, and they have a lot of free roaming cats, and Jade ignores them. So after Raisin the cat died, I was just kind of waiting to get one, and then one of my friends said, hey, do you know anybody that wants a cat? This stray just showed up and she's super sweet and she's really good around our dogs, but we can't keep her. Do you know anybody that might want her? And so I'm like, well, I mean, I could take her because I'm eventually going to get a cat anyway. So I ended up taking her. And it's interesting because she looks Raisin, uh, like Raisin would have looked when he was younger and healthy. And she's super sweet. But you know what? I've had a heck of a time getting my dogs used to Sammy. Um, so I did put Sammy. Sammy was an outdoor cat, but they did let her in at night. And with cats, if you don't get them acclimated to a new place, they will find their way back home. So another friend of mine had a cat that kept showing up, and they didn't want the cat. It was feral, and so I said, yeah, I'll take it and use it, keep it as a barn cat. And when I went to feed it, the very first time I opened, they put it in like a dog crate, and I just barely opened the door to put food in there, and the cat like pushed its way out and took off. And a week later, showed back up at the original house that is about 3 miles away. So I didn't want that to happen to this cat. So I put her in the condo for like 3 days, and I did rotate them. So I put the dogs out and outside and let Sammy out to roam around, and um, but I had to shut the dog door so she didn't, go outside and take off. Um, so then I let her out one time with just one dog out, and um, Daphne was like super curious, like a little bit too curious. And the cat jumped up on something high, and Daphne was kind of barking at her. Um, and even when she swats at him through the condo, my dogs don't back off. With Raisin, they would always like back off and give him a space, which is really interesting because Raisin was like 18. He was old man. He was grumpy, but he ruled the house. Um, so what I'm doing now is we're still rotating. So like right now, the only dog that's in the house is Maddie. Um, and I have the condo door open, although I don't think Sammy has come out yet. And I'm just going to get her used to each dog like one at a time. And when I do it with Daphne and Jade, I'm going to have them on leash. The only dog that so far has been like, okay, you can have your space is Willy Wonka. He got hissed at once and he's like, I'm out. So it can be challenging to socialize dogs and cats. And one thing I learned is that just because my dogs lived with a cat and have been around a cat, they haven't really generalized it to now bringing a new cat into the home, because they're barking at her, they're super um, obsessed with her. The only other thing I can think of is my neighbors just got two kittens, and so like Daphne will sit at the fence all day long, and the cats kind of come up to the fence and kind of tease her, and she's really interested. But and I don't know if it's like I really want to be your friend and play, or I want to eat you. I mean, Daphne's not like that. She's not aggressive at all, but she's like I've never seen her have kind of this much interest and drive to get at a cat. So I will probably do it on leash and introduce them on leash, so that the cat can get away and I have control of the dog. I totally trust Maddie, even though Maddie has barked at her before, but I think she's pretty much deciding now that her condo is a pretty safe place to be, so she's kind of just hanging out there. So I'll probably have to like go get her and bring her to the couch on my lap with like one dog out at a time. Um, so the purpose of all that is if you get a cat, or for people that have dogs and cats, sometimes it takes a while. I've had Sammy since Sunday, so only 4.5 days. Um, so it's still early, but it has taken a while for her to get acclimated and comfortable, and we still haven't got her to where, she'll come out with all of the dogs. So it does take a while. Um, I do have to tell you though, it is so nice. As much as I love Raisin and miss him, he had a lot of medical problems, and so he had constant diarrhea. He was always missing the litter box, and I was cleaning, even though I have one of those self-cleaning litter boxes that, like, that kind of rake the bad litter into like this little box, and then it like rakes it clean again. I was cleaning his litter box like every other day. This one, this cat is like normal, has normal bowel movements, everything. And so every time I walk by, the litter box is clean, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is so nice. But now I've replaced that with a Willy Wonka who is incontinent and has to wear diapers. And even with diapers on at night, sometimes he leaks. Um, and sometimes he goes right through the diaper. And so I'm washing and bedding like every other day. So I kind of like, poor Raisin was a handful. And now I've got a foster dog that I'm like constantly trying to keep clean. So it's, it's like crazy here all the time. Um, so do you guys have any? I mean, you guys come every week, so you may not have any questions, but we could talk about Halloween. Like, are you going to dress your dogs up? What are you going to dress them up as? And what's something fun that you're going to do? Here, they used to do in Park City, Main Street, they used to have like a dog parade where everybody could dress up their dog and walk up and down Main Street. I've heard that they're not doing that this year. Um, but at one of the pet stores, they're doing like a trick or treat parade for dogs and kids, I think. So they said if we wanted to come and oh wait, that was Monday. I missed it. Oh, my bad. Anyway, it was Monday, and they had like a 2 hour like parking lot, like trick or trunk type thing, but you could dress up your dog and um, stuff like that. I just totally remembered that I forgot it. But I did have a dentist appointment Monday, so I probably wouldn't have been able to go anyway. But are you dressing up your dogs? What are you dressing them up as? And are you doing anything else fun for Halloween with your dog? So again, when I had mine, I used to just put them in a crate with something to chew on. We don't really have trick or treaters anymore. Okay, while you're thinking, I'm gonna go grab my throat lozenges and I'll be right back because I taught 2 hours of class last night, so I'm like losing my voice already. So I'll be right back. I was gonna grab the cat so you can meet her, but she is eating dinner, so Maddie, these are just throat drops. It's not candy. He's my old 11-year-old that has to have blood work every month, so that's why we were at the vet. Okay, Nicole, Wilma will be a Royals baseball player. I love that. Moose will dress as Superman in his training class. I didn't even think about having my dogs or having my class dogs dress up. I should have done that. I don't have any more classes before Halloween though, so and then Julie Fairy and Batgirl. That's cute. One year I was really lazy, and so I have a picture up on my wall, and I'll get it down. I'll show it to you. So these are my three original pit bulls that I named my company Three Little Pits after. And I so one year for Halloween, I literally had salt, pepper, and cinnamon because I didn't have any costumes for them. So I just said salt, pepper, cinnamon, or nutmeg, or whatever you want to say. So this was Tacoma, my very first pit bull. This was Hallie. She was the one that was rescued from the Michael Vick dog fighting bus. Jagger was my little spinal cord injury dog who walked crooked, like he didn't have any control of his back end. But they were my first three pit bulls. So that's what we did one year for Halloween. I'm not very original. So now, since I have to go to an event Sunday, um, I kind of have to dress them up. But I'm borrowing costumes. We were gonna try to dress Willie up as a walrus because he walks with his feet out and he walks just like a walrus. Plus his back legs don't work, and so he kind of drags them. So he seriously looks like a walrus when he walks. But I couldn't really find a walrus costume, so we just decided to dress him up as a pumpkin, which he'll be really cute as a pumpkin. Um, okay, you guys think of some questions, anything. I'm running out of things to talk about. Let me see. Let me think of what else I can tell you about. Um, okay, I'll talk about how important consistency is in training. I'm probably preaching to the choir because you guys are here every single week and you work with your dogs. Nicole works with several dogs, family members' dogs. Um, so this probably doesn't pertain to you guys, but if other people watch the recording, maybe it will ring true to people. I have a client who like had a girlfriend and they got a kitten and a puppy together. And then they broke up, the girlfriend moved out, and so now this guy who has his own company and is super busy, now he has a kitten and a puppy. So he did board and train with me for a week. And then he literally has me go almost every single day to work with this dog. So um, when I go over there, he's very disengaged. He's always on the phone. He works a lot. He takes his dog with him to job sites and just leaves the dog in the car. And he travels a lot. So when he travels, the dog comes to my house. Um, but he started to have accidents, and the dog has learned how to open the doors. So she literally opens the doors and can get out. And she doesn't go anywhere, but she lets the kitten out. And then it's really hard to get the kitten back. Um, so last week he went away for one whole day, like flew out early that morning, came back late that night. And when the puppy's here, we have a very regimented schedule. So like we potty, we have breakfast, we potty again, we do training session, we do enrichment, we do lunch, we do potty, nap, walk. So it's very predictable and it's very structured. At his house, I think he's working and on the phone a lot, so he's like doesn't really pay attention. So last Friday when I went, I walk in the door and he's like, "Oh my gosh, I can't handle this dog. She's had 4 accidents. She pooped in the car, pooped in her kennel, and I'm thinking about rehoming her." And I usually don't recommend this, but in this case, I said, that might be the best thing because I don't think you have time for a puppy. And because of your schedule, you can't give her the structure she needs. And I didn't want him to like not believe me when I say she's great at my house. So I started videotaping it. At home, he cannot get his dog to go in a crate. She hates it. And here, I open the crate door and I say, go to your crate. And she goes right in her crate and lays down, and it's perfect. She doesn't scream, she doesn't cry, she doesn't bark, she doesn't have accidents. Um, so I, I'm trying to nicely tell him that it's about him and not the dog. Um, so he's thinking about rehoming, which I think would be good. But since I'm going to an adoption event Sunday, I said, let me know because I can take her and let people meet her, and then, I won't adopt her out, but take information and then let you meet people so that you can, she'll go to a good home. And so then he says, well, let me think about it. So I'm like, he's going to back out. Anyway, um, okay, Nicole, I'm thinking of taking a Karen Pryor class on training at the animal shelter. Oh my gosh, if you could do that, that would be so good. And I would love to take a Karen Pryor class. And if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have gone through Karen Pryor Academy um, for schooling. I mentored under a few people that were very, very good. So I still learned a lot. But I think there's a lot of like just foundational things that I didn't learn or learned later that I probably would have gotten if I would have gone through a good thing like that. Karen Pryor is one of the best. So if you have the opportunity to go through a Karen Pryor class at a shelter, I think you should totally do it. I I thought about going back through, even though um, just more for like the structure and to say that I graduated from Karen Pryor Academy. But it is a lot of money, and twice, I think two for you can do a lot of it online, but you have to do some of your practicals in person. So I would have to go to probably Denver. Like Denver would be the closest for me. I think there's 2 or 3 places where you can go do um, your practicals. Um, so you want to do the pro training class, but yeah, I need to save money. It's expensive. It's not cheap, but I will tell you that if you have Karen Pryor Academy graduate after your name, um, that's going to go a long way because she is very, very well respected, and people know that if you graduate from there, that you know your stuff. So I would say if you have the chance to do it, I would do it. Um, so that's awesome. I'm excited for you. I wish I had time and money to do it just to say that I did it. I mean, maybe someday, but right now I just don't. I don't have time, and with all the animals at my house, I don't know how I would ever go to Denver and leave 4 dogs and a cat. Okay, I'm going to go back and answer Brian. Um, on the trail, a guy walked by taking pictures. Peyton started barking, pulling her up first time ever. I lost it. Where'd it go? Should I be concerned? Don't want a mean dog. She's almost a year. Rotty lab or boxer mix. Um, Not necessarily. So when hackles go up, that can mean just over arousal, and it can also mean like fear. So let's say that Peyton, like, was there anything about the guy that was unusual? Like, did he have a beard? Did he have a hat on, sunglasses? And if he was taking pictures and had a camera, um, it could have just been like a new thing for Peyton to see a man with a camera, like taking pictures of stuff. So it could just be a socialization thing, like, oh wow, that's weird, and I've never seen a guy with that thing in his hand. Um, and the hackles going up can be, I see it a lot in puppy classes when dogs get over aroused. Um, so it's not necessarily a bad thing, and it doesn't necessarily mean aggression. So, and I may be saying this wrong, so don't totally take this at 100%. I'm kind of going off of memory. If if the hackles just go up between the shoulders, it's just like alert or over arousal, but not necessarily a bad thing. Um, if it is, sometimes you have it between shoulders and just tail, like at the base of the tail. I believe that one is fear. So that just means like the dog is fearful. So Peyton could have been afraid of the man with the camera. Um, and then I believe that if it's all the way down the back, like you see a whole line, then that's more of an aggression type of um, thing. So next time, try to notice from Peyton. And if I had my iPad, I could look it up because I have notes on the different kind of piloerection. Um, but try to notice where it happens. If it's just between shoulder blades, I wouldn't worry as much because that just means like over arousal. Um, and then it could be fear, or it could be, like, I don't like this person. I mean, if the guy was sending off a bad vibe, or like, let's say he did a direct stare to Peyton and Peyton took that as a challenge. I mean, there's a lot of things that could go into it. So um, I wouldn't I wouldn't be too concerned yet, but I would keep an eye um, on her. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think I told you all about this, but I'll share it again just in case I didn't. My dog Jade is like one of the friendliest dogs I've ever had. In fact, almost too friendly because she wants to jump up and lick everybody. One day, I took her to the lake to let her swim, and we were walking towards the water, and a guy was coming the other way, and she stopped, and her ears went up, her hackles went up, she growled, and she barked, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's never done anything like that, like never. Um, and so I just kind of interrupted and I said, oh, Jade, it's fine. It's just a fisherman. It's not a big deal. And the guy even, held his hand out like we were from a distance. So he even like held his hand out like, oh, look, it's okay. And she growled and barked again. And so I just, didn't want to take her up and let her sniff a guy that she's growling at and possibly bite him. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't think he looked particularly scary or like out of the ordinary. So I don't know what it was about him that Jade did not like. But she definitely let me know there's something about him that she didn't like. So there was the hackles, growling, barking. I've had Jade for over 2 years now, and that is the one and only time she has ever done that with a guy. And he was just walking back to his car. And I think, I'm trying to remember if, I don't even think he had a fishing pole with him, but he may have. Um, so, I just kind of chalked it up as, there's some people that Jade like doesn't like. Um, so I would just keep an eye on Peyton and just start see if it starts to happen more. One thing that you can do is if she does bark, you don't want to get mad at her because she's just communicating. But you can say like, "Oh, Peyton, it's just a guy, no big deal," and then maybe start to do the look at that exercise where you say like, Peyton, look at the guy, click treat, and like, look at that guy with the camera, click treat. Now, if she's barking, um, then you're too close and you want to back up. There's also another technique called behavioral adjustment training. It's really cool. Oh, um, and it's really good for like dogs that do things out of fear. So basically, if a dog acts, if a dog sees a trigger, and this can be another dog, a person, if they start doing things like look away, look at the ground, sniff the ground, yawn when they're not tired, do a shake off, lip lick, you actually then move them farther away. So it operates off of the negative reinforcement part of the quadrant. So we want to reinforce that behavior that they are giving appeasement and stress signals instead of reacting. And we want to reward that by removing them from the trigger, so taking them farther away. So let's say Peyton, like, barks at the guy. Then I would just say, oh, let's go. And in a fun way, like, okay, let's go. We'll walk away and we'll go a little bit farther. Then when Peyton settles down, then you could turn around and do the look at that. Like, oh, look, it's just the guy with the camera. Click treat. Guy with the camera. Click treat. Um, then let's say, and I see this a lot in my reactive dog class, where the dog then like starts to sniff the ground, looks away, yawns, stuff like that. And so then I will mark that with either a click or yes, good dog, and then we run the other way. So we actually move farther away, and then I give a secondary treat. So that's another really good technique that you can use. So if you look up, I'll put it in here. I don't use this one as much. I really like it, but I think sometimes it's harder for some owners to do because you have to really um, focus in on your dog's body language. Um, so, but I have one client going to a behaviorist right now, and she wants us to start this. So we're gonna start this. Um, there's a 1.0 and a 2.0 out. I honestly don't know the difference. I think one's just, you know, updated, but I just put it in the chat. So BAT stands for Behavioral Adjustment Training. So you could look that up and do that with Peyton as well. But yeah, I wouldn't worry so much about it yet. I mean, this happened last summer with Jade, and I haven't seen her do it since. And I'm out with her a lot with training. So we go to Home Depot a lot, Petco. She went to the dentist with me this week. And oh my gosh, the dentist is a big guy. The chair kept going up and down. They were drilling. And Jade just laid it on her mat. She was fine. So I don't know what it was about this guy, but sometimes there's just something that dogs don't like. Okay. Julie, let's see. For Halloween, when we are out, I can predict Ellie barking at everything. Even though we will be on the opposite side of the road, I'm planning on bringing treats. I'm going to try this and like engage, disengage. Yeah, so if you predict that Ellie's going to bark at everything, I would almost tell you not to take her because she's going to be over threshold, um, and she's going to get to practice that behavior. So let's say she sees some kids from across the street dressed up and she starts barking, and the kids continue to walk down the street. Then in Ellie's mind, that's reinforcing for her because she's making that happen. So it's like if I bark, I can make these scary looking kids move away. Does that make sense? So it may not be an advantage to do that. However, if she starts barking and you can do like a flight cue or say, come on, Ellie, let's go, and then move her farther away and then stop and do engage, disengage, yes, that would be appropriate and you could do that. But you have to be, for it to work, you have to be at a distance to where Ellie can just look and engage and then disengage. But if she's already barking, then she's over threshold and she's not going to be learning at that point. So hopefully that makes sense. If I have a dog that I know is not going to do well, which right now, thank goodness I don't, but I did. I did have a dog that would have barked at everything. So there were sometimes that I just didn't take him because I knew that he'd be over threshold, he'd be stressed, he'd be scared, he might nip at somebody. So I chose not to take him. Um, so it's just something to think about. I'm not saying not to do it, but if you already know that Ellie's going to be barking at everything, it might be better not to. But if you know what her threshold is and you know like at what distance or at what thing she's going to bark at, then you probably could do it if as long as you can control the distance. So again, you want to be able to say like, let's go, but then if you turn and go the other way, you don't want to run into like more kids with costumes because then she's going to just react again. So you have to get her at a spot and at a distance where she can just look at them and stay calm and not react. And then you can do the engage, disengage, and yes, then it would be really good. Um, let's see, she's been around kids in costumes before because my kids like to dress up. Yeah, that's great. So, Julie, what are the things that you predict that Ellie's going to bark at? Because then I can probably help you a little bit more. Let's see. When Dakota and Ellie play, Ellie starts to go onto Dakota's back, like giving her a piggyback ride. Is that a bad thing or a good thing? Is it like humping? Like when you say giving her a piggyback ride, is that like, is she going up from behind? Um, and like is kind of in a humping posture with Dakota? Again, humping can be over arousal. It can also be dogs like figuring out where they are in the social hierarchy. So it's not an alpha thing or a dominance thing, but it's like, oh, from the side. I still don't think so. Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, I wish I was in my office where I have my fake dog. So if this is Dakota, is Ellie coming up from the side and kind of jumping on her back? Okay, so it's not humping. But still, if dogs do, like if they jump on another dog's back, not in a humping way, but like jump up, um, it can still be a dog trying to show status. And it's not always good, but it depends on the other dog. If Dakota doesn't care and just says, okay, whatever, then it's not a problem. If Dakota doesn't like it and says and corrects her, then you may have an issue. So an example is Tuesday night at my intermediate class, we've always since all of the dogs get along, we take them off leash and let them play for a little bit. Well, there's one dog there that always wants to be like, top dog, and he's a little pushy in his play. Well, he and Jade started playing a little bit, but then he tried to jump on Jade, and Jade turned around and corrected him, but he didn't back off. He's like, I don't think so. You're not going to do that to me. And we had to hurry and intervene. And really, all I had to do was say, hey, and then separate them. And then I gave them each a timeout. So again, it depends on the other dog. If Dakota doesn't care and it's just like whatever, then it's probably fine. And it may change with age too. So it's something you kind of always want to watch. Kathy! Hey, Kathy, haven't talked to you in a long time. And Key, I will go back and answer your question as well. How's Charlotte doing? Um, so yeah, it's probably a social status type thing. Um, let's see. She will have. Let me go back. She will have her two paws on her back, and while Dakota tries to walk around, Ellie will be walking around with her still on her side. I would probably just interrupt and use an off and just say, Ellie, off. And just kind of interrupt and redirect her to do something else. It sounds like Dakota's like trying to walk away from her, but is still being really, really patient. However, Dakota may get to the point where it's like, you know what? I don't like this. I don't like you jumping on my back. And then Dakota could correct. And if it's just a correction, that's good and it's appropriate. But if Ellie doesn't take a correction, then you could have something that turns into a little bit of a tussle. So I would probably like interrupt, like, hey, enough, we're not going to do that, and then redirect them to do something else. So like you could put Ellie in a crate for 1 minute, or just put her on a leash and tether her to you for 1 minute, just so she can decompress, and have a brief little timeout. That's what I would do. Okay, so I've got to go back and answer P. Van Deurs. I'm probably not saying that right. I apologize. So, when my dog is at a distance from me in the background and already over threshold, it's okay to calm myself. Then I start stepping towards saying things like enough. I try to let her be a Great Dane. Just want to be able to let her know to stop when asked. So I think what you're doing is great. So, one thing that we can't do is train out genetics. So if your Great Dane has those herding instincts or those guarding instincts, and like starts barking or something, then yes, as long as you step in and just say like, hey, enough. And the way that I teach that, and we call that a positive interrupter, because what your Dane is doing is just communicating. Like, there's a person I don't like, or there's a dog that I don't like. Then I just went back to read your other question to make sure I wasn't missing anything. So what I will do is, in the beginning, I'll say, enough, treat, enough, treat, enough, treat. So it's kind of like when you load the clicker. So when the dog hears enough, or you can use stop. I do use stop sometimes. Like I'll say stop. So you want that word to predict a treat. So when your Dane hears enough, we want the Dane to like look away and look at you like, oh, I just heard the interrupter. I get a treat now. And then you can redirect. So I would interrupt, and then ask her to do something else. So like do a come front, which means come sit, look at me. You can do a heel, like come to my side. Um, Sometimes I do what's called place, where the dog comes around in between your legs. But if you have a Great Dane, that may not work unless you're really, really tall. Um, but yes, and I love what you said about you try to let her be a Great Dane. I'm taking a class right now that's really, really good. And they talk about how, like, a lot of people, when they rescue dogs, they try to, like, I'll just give you an example. In our area, we have a lot of rescue herding breeds. So they're all cattle dog mixes. And people will rescue them as puppies, they want them as family pets, but then they start to get upset when the dog is hurting the grandkids or the kids or, things like that, or company when they come over. So it's like, but you have a herding breed, like you have a border collie mix, and that's what they do. And so, to an extent, we have to let our dogs express their natural way of being. So, which is why, like, I have terriers, um, and that's one reason that I let my terriers dig in the backyard. I don't really like the fact that they dig holes in my yard, but I let them dig for voles and gophers and mice. Um, Number one, they usually don't ever catch them. If they do catch a mouse, I don't care because that means the mouse is not going to come in my house. But that's kind of what they were bred to do, like, hundreds of years ago. Um, so you want to kind of let them, do that behavior. So an outlet, say for a border collie, would be like tribal or agility, or give them something else to do where they can use their brain. With tribal, they actually herd balls into a net, so they still get to practice that herding behavior. Um, so things like that. So I think I love that you said I try to let her be a Great Dane. Um, Now that being said, I don't allow dogs unless you have need for a guard dog and you actually want her to be a guard dog for you or at your home. Um, then I would still just interrupt and redirect. Or if you do want her to guard, then you want to have an off switch, which means, okay, you've barked, you've guarded, now quiet. And you can do that same thing by doing the interrupt, like, okay, that's enough. And then that should mean stop. And then ask the dog to do something else, like come sit and watch me, or do a heel by my side. Um, and so, like when my dogs bark in the backyard, I'll go see what they're barking at, and I'll say, "Oh, okay, it's just so and so. That's enough." And once they know, okay, mom's got this. It's not a big deal. They usually stop, depending on what it is. If they continue to bark, then I'll interrupt and like bring them in and redirect them to doing something inside. But then I don't let them outside until whatever they're barking at is gone, just so they don't continue to practice that over and over. So, Key, did that make sense? Hopefully, that made sense. Um, Charlotte is great, maybe a little spoiled. Well, I get that because I have four spoiled ones as well. Kathy, have you seen my foster dog? I think you were on one night when I had Willie. He's the like pit bull English bulldog mix that has to be in a cart because of his back legs, but he's got the big head, the jowls, but he does have cropped ears. But he reminds me of Charlotte a little bit. Great dog. He's really cute. So key. So practice the enough treat sequence when it's not important, like a game. Yes. So key, if you email me, I'm putting my email address in right now. I will send you the handout, and it's actually a handout that a friend of mine wrote. So it's on her letterhead. Um, but it'll take you through step by step. But yes, that's how she starts it. Um, is is pairing the word with a treat. So the word enough predicts treat, and that way it's kind of like with the engage disengage, where we start by having the dog look at something, click, and then treat. And the click teaches the dog to disengage. So they look at a trigger and not react, and they hear the click, and so then they're like, oh, I heard the click, where's my treat? But it teaches them to disengage. So by pairing the word enough with a treat, then your dog learns, oh, I just heard the word. That means I have a treat coming. So it teaches them to disengage and like not focus on what her bark is. Um, yeah, and you just said the bark is the first response, and I just described what you do, and that's perfect. You're doing the right thing, and that's what I would keep doing. And yes, I do like to practice it a lot as a game, um, just so that it gets in the dog's muscle memory, and then they can do it all the time. Because if you wait until you need it and the dog's already over threshold and you haven't practiced it, it's going to be harder, and it's going to be harder to then redirect your dog into doing something else. So, like with the positive interrupter and like the flight cue that I teach a lot, then oh, shit, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah, I have clients practice it a ton. So even though flight cue means I turn 180 degrees and have the best party and treats ever, I have them practice that every single day so that when they do need it and you say the word like retreat, then your dog is like boop, and like they flip their head around and go the other way because you've done it a lot. But if you wait until your dog's over threshold and then you try to say retreat, well, that word doesn't mean anything to your dog, so they're going to continue to bark. So yes, it is like a game, and it's actually like a training game, and you want to really get your dog used to hearing that word and learning to look away and be like, oh, I get a treat for that. And then you said, I'm also trying to maintain come equals treat as well. Is that confusing her? Not at all. Because any behavior that I want to reinforce, I use treats. So with come, I try to make it more exciting than anything in the dog's environment. So I might, and I do always practice this on leash first. So 6 foot, 15 foot, 20 foot, drag a leash, things like that. So that if the dog doesn't come, I can reel the dog in um, and make it super exciting or help reinforce the come. Because if I say, like, Jade, come, and she's off barking or sniffing or doing something else, and she's actually getting rewarded for not coming to me. And I don't want to do that. So I use higher value treats with recall and leave it because I want the dogs to really know, oh, I really don't want to come right now. I'm doing something really fun, but if I do, I'm going to get a piece of bacon. And when I train that, I'll say, like Jade, come. She's outside, so she can't hear this. But I'll say, Jade, come, and then I'll help her with the leash, and I'll say, oh, good girl, let's go, way to go, girl. And so I make it really fun, super exciting. Um, and then give her a treat. And then I say, okay, go play. So in her mind, she comes, gets a treat, a good treat, and then I release her to go play again. So that it's all like really fun and positive and exciting for her. Um, she's 7 years old, okay to use long leash. Yes, especially now because unless she has a really, really solid leash recall now, if she's had 7 years of practicing maybe not coming all the time or coming when she wants, then I would for sure use the long line so that you can reel her in. So basically, I say the word once, like Rover, come, and I give the dog a half a second to decide if that's what they want, if they're going to do it. So I'll wait and see, do they choose to turn back and come to me? If they don't, then I don't yank them, but I gently like start to step back and give it, and then just start to kind of reel the dog in with the leash. And as I'm reeling in, it's like, oh, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. As I'm like bringing them closer to me. And using the leash kind of just helps them learn to come and then give them a really good treat and then say, okay, good job, now go play. And then let your dog have the length of the long leash again. So if your dog has a really good recall already and you're just still working on it, then you may not need a long line. But if there are times when your dog doesn't come, then I would for sure do it on a long line all the time, just so we can reinforce that behavior. Um, okay, let me go see if I missed anything. Do you guys like this time, or would you rather have Wednesdays at 6? I actually think we have better turnout on Wednesday nights. Um, I actually like love doing it with you guys. It's kind of like my own little class. And you always come with really great questions, but I know they're trying to get more people to participate. Um, let's see. Oh, so Nicole, you gave me an idea where Wilma's going to be a baseball player. I actually have a little T-shirt, a football T-shirt that my little cousin grew out of. So I could actually dress Willy Wonka up as a football player and get him a little football to carry around because he will carry a ball around in his mouth forever. And he's got such a strong jaw, you cannot get it out at all. Um, Nicole, you'll have to keep me posted about your class. I'm actually jealous that you get to do it because I really want to do it, but I don't have the time or the money right now. Let's see. Oh, one thing I would want to know, Key. So on your first post where you said um, after you calm yourself, then you start stepping towards your dog saying things like enough. Is your dog on leash at that point or off leash? And if your dog is off leash, are you able to call her back to you and get her to come back? Or is there ever a chance that she's not going to come back and continue to bark at something? Because if you can't get her back, then I would leash and continue to use the long line until it's really reliable. You could also use the flight cue, which just means to the dog, turn 180 degrees and have the best party and treats ever. So it's kind of a combination of the interrupter and come. Only instead of like coming towards me, like I turn with the dog and we run and have the best party. So, but I do the same thing where I pair the flight cue like retreat. So like I'll say retreat and take a handful of treats and toss it behind the dog so the dog learns to turn and then get the treat. And then we work on distance. So if your dog is like barking, 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 and it's going over threshold, then you could do something like a retreat, which to the dog is like, oh, this is like Christmas or Thanksgiving, and I use a treat that the dog never ever gets any other time except when they hear the flight cue. So it has to be something really good that that's the only time they get it. So to the dog, it's like, oh, dude, I really want to bark at you right now, but we're having Christmas over here, and I've got to go get my um, beef liver or whatever. I actually buy gizzard for this and I freeze it, cut it up in little pieces, freeze it. And that's what I use for my flight cube because I don't give my dogs gizzards any other time. But you could use something like bacon or boiled chicken or something, but it has to be something that your dog never gets except when they hear the flight cue. And at the first, yes, you're going to be doing it a lot so that the dog learns it and learns that that word means really super yummy treat that they never get any other time. And I can send you that handout as well. Just remind me, if you email me, just remind me what handouts you want. Um, yeah, and Key, I get it. I mean, my dog's the same way. She's really good most of the time, but when there's a distraction, and for her, distractions are smells. So when she has her nose to the ground and she's sniffing, it's like she's deaf. I cannot get her attention. She does not listen to me. Um, so when that happens, I usually just go get her. I don't say like Jay, come because I know she's not going to do it, and I don't want her to learn to ignore that word. And so yeah, it depends on what the distraction is because some things I can call Jade off of, but if it's an area where there's been a lot of dogs and there's a lot of dog smells, she's like tuned out. I don't exist. So, um, okay, Nicole, the later time is better. Um, yeah. So I'm gonna put down Wednesday, and if they want to try some other times, like I'm happy to do 2 a week, so we can keep our Wednesday night class, and then if they want to try different days and times, I'll just do two of them, and then it doesn't get into your dinner. Key, where are you from? I'm gonna enter you into the drawing, but I have to know where you're from. And yes, I get it. Like I have live Q&A put in my calendar every single Wednesday at 6, except for this week. It, it kind of changed. But yeah, I like having things in my calendar so that I don't book myself. Um, yeah, and even with East Coast, 6 o'clock Mountain Time is 8 o'clock your time. For the West Coast people, I think they're an hour earlier, so it would be 5, which is kind of right around dinner time. But we usually only go an hour to an hour and a half, so it wouldn't be, like they're eating dinner really late. I usually don't eat dinner anyway, but that's just a time issue. Um, okay, Christina Moreno, let me write you down. And Christina, remind me where you're from. Okay, I just sterilized my female 1-year-old 2 weeks ago. Ooh, 1 week after being sterilized, she was attacked by a dog. I noticed after first surgery that she was growling extra in the couch and in her bed. Given the surgeries and discomfort, I assumed she was doing some extra resource guarding out of fear. Um, how bad was the attack? Because it could be a pain issue. So especially if she just got spayed, and then if she got attacked and um, was injured, it could be pain. Also, when dogs have a traumatic experience, it takes sometimes, I've heard different things from different sources. So I've heard 48 to 72 hours for them to like get back to homeostasis, which is like their normal self, rather than all that adrenaline. It takes a while for all the adrenaline to go through their body. So um, I also have noticed that when I've had dogs get spayed, they don't really feel good, so they'll lay on the couch and kind of growl at other dogs that come up close, and it's just because it's a pain thing, and it's like, okay, I'm on pain medicine, I feel funny, I don't feel great, so stay away. Kind of like when, as humans, like we get sick, or if I have a migraine, I'm like, okay, everybody just leave me alone. I can't talk, I can't do anything. But if your dog is starting to resource guard um, things, let me read the rest. I have blocked the couch where she otherwise sleeps all day while I'm at work and then allow her when I am there to sit together. And that's good. Is it smart to block something she is resource guarding like the couch and then allowing her only when I am there? Um, yeah, I think it's fine. Because one of the things that we always do is environmental management. So let's say, and who does she resource guard it from? Is it from other dogs or is it from people? So, as an example, if Jade's on the couch and one of the dogs walks by and she growls at them, then she loses her couch privilege and she has to get off. Um, but then, like an hour later or even a day later, I'll let her back up. And if one of the dogs is getting ready to walk by, I'll say, okay, Jade, now be nice. And if she's good and doesn't react, then she gets to stay on the couch and snuggle. Um, if she growls, then it's like, oh, I'm so sorry. We just don't do that. That's not nice. Okay, now you're going to have to get down. And I don't like yell at her or punish her, but really the punishment is you just lost your couch privilege. Um, but yeah, it's totally fine to block something that she's resource guarding, except for times when you're there and can sit with her and manage the environment. Um, I think that's totally fine. You can also make good things happen with, like when she's on the couch and a person or a dog walks by, give her a treat. Like, okay, somebody just walked by the couch, you stayed calm, you didn't growl, so I'm going to reward you for that. So you could do that as well. Um, she also growls while she is awake, but in a more sleep mode. Not exactly sure what that means. I have had dogs growl in their sleep, like when they're dreaming. Um, in fact, my dogs do it all the time. When they're dreaming, they will growl. Um, and sometimes they make these other like really funny noises. So sometimes I'll just wake them up. Um, but I don't know what that means. Like she growls while she is awake, but in a more sleep mode. You might have to explain that part to me a little bit more, and then I'll try to answer that. Um, I sometimes recall, toss treats, and encourage flight cue. Um, yeah, so with the flight cue, the handout is called walk away. So the hand, so you can say like walk away. Um, I use the word retreat. I've had some clients use party time just to remind themselves that it's the best party ever. So if they see another dog and they start barking, they'll say party time, and that means like the dog flips around and it's like, oh, let's go, let's go, and they toss a handful of treats, and they're like, oh, let's go find the treats. This is so much fun. So it can be any cue you want. Um, but some that I've had people use retreat, party time, head for the hills. My friend that I learned this from, her flight cue was actually chicken hearts. So she would say chicken hearts, but then she had actual chicken hearts in the freezer, and the dogs would run to the back room and they would get their chicken hearts. So you can really name it anything you want, just be consistent. And it does have to be an exclusive treat. so that the dog really does want to um, go the other way because it's like best treat ever. But those are some of the other words that I have used or had clients use. Hey, Anita. Anita, so you like Thursday. I'll put that down. So far, you're the only one that likes Thursday. Oh, Key, so you're from Canada. I just watched a movie the other day about, it was a good movie. Can't remember the name of it though, but it was filmed in Canada. Key, it's difficult not pointing a cue like calling come over and over. Yeah, I mean, it is. And just as I think human nature, we say it again, and I'm always telling clients, like, don't say it over and over. And even though I will just tell them to do it, when we play something easy, like with puppies, like the name game or touch, I always tell them, like, give your dog a few seconds to figure it out and to think about it. And, because they're still learning it. And most people are really impatient. So they'll say, touch, touch. And I have to say, just say it once. I have to remind them a lot. So it is hard. I have a really good friend, and you other people have probably already heard this. Um, when we would go hiking with our dogs off leash, she would constantly say, Wyatt, come, Wyatt, come, Wyatt, come, Wyatt, come. And I'm like, oh my gosh, stop. Your dog is not listening to you. Number two, your dog's off playing with my dog, so he's actually getting reinforced for ignoring you. And so it is really hard to poison a cue. It's hard not to. Um, I had one client that used the word COME so much, and his dogs didn't do it, that we had to choose a different word. Like, we just couldn't say come anymore because it meant nothing to the dog. So we started using here, and here meant like come here. Um, but yeah, that's one of the main things that I have people work on is not saying a cue like over and over and over again. But it is hard. I have people do it. Almost all of my private clients do it um, until I hound them so much that then they stop just to shut me up. The people in class do it. I think it's just human nature, and it is hard to not poison a cue. And if we do, then we just have to come up with a different, like something different to call it. Okay, Anita. Oh, Christina. She was bitten in the neck pretty bad by a kitty off leash. Stayed maybe for a couple of minutes bitten without being able to let her go. It was pretty bad. Um, yeah, so that sounds pretty traumatic. So I think right now I think it's really a normal behavior for your dog, and your dog's probably in pain. So I would say it's most likely a pain response. Um, kind of like I said, when I get a migraine, and if I'm on the couch and people walk in, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys, I don't feel good. Please just leave me alone. And so I make them go in another room. So it's kind of like that. If she's in pain and has had a traumatic experience, she may not want other people or other dogs around her. I suspect that when she feels better, it it may subside, but if it doesn't, let me know and we can work through it. But one thing you can do is, again, when she's on the couch, and if a dog or a person starts approaching the couch and she's calm, reward her for that. Um, so that we're rewarding the calm behavior and not the guarding behavior. Hey, Deb, you don't need to know. It's funny, one time I'm like, how do you say your last name? And I didn't get it at first, but I love that. Okay, from Maryland. Yeah, I haven't seen you in a long time. Okay, so I'll go back and answer yours. Anita, my pooch still barks and growls in her sleep. Only once did I see her wag her tail while sound asleep. She's a rescue. Yeah, I actually see that a lot. And my dog from a dog fight bust would have the worst nightmares. I swear they were like flashback nightmares because I would wake her up. It was so traumatic sounding. So I would wake her up. Um, but usually, I don't know what dogs dream about, but if it doesn't sound really traumatic, I just let them dream. But yeah, with rescue dogs, like we don't really know what their background is. We do know that dogs can have memories. So I don't see why they wouldn't like dream about stuff. Um, but yeah, it's it's hard because we don't know their background and what they've been through. Um, okay, Deb, I'm getting a 9-week-old puppy Saturday. Congratulations. What kind? My current 1-year-old lab loves other dogs and he has met young puppies before, but he can be a bit much and I want to not traumatize the puppy. Do you have any recommendations on introductions and acclimation? Yes. Um, so usually what I do is I will go for a parallel walk. So like walk them side by side, let them air scent. If you have somebody to help you, that's even better. If one person can take your 1-year-old and you take the puppy, they are gathering information while they're walking um, because they're air scenting, they're but they're doing something fun. And then if all looks good, body language is good, you can start to allow really brief butt sniffs. So like a 2-second butt sniff and then take them up. Oh, good job, good sniffing. And then you can walk a little bit more and let the other dog sniff. If you start to see like play bows, loose body, things like that, then you can go to a place and drop one leash. And so I would maybe drop the puppy's leash, um, keep hold of the lab just in case, and then let them interact. If everything's fine, then you can drop both leashes. Um, so that's how I like to do introductions. Um, just because I know my dogs so well, when I bring home a new board and train, I usually don't introduce them in the house because my house is so little that it's a tight space, and that's not good for like 4 dogs to meet another dog. Especially, I don't want the puppy to be scared and feel like they don't have any place to go. So I usually do it out in my backyard, and I do one dog at a time. So I introduce them first to Daphne, um, and let them sniff and then start to play. And then I'll bring Maddie out. And then Jade is usually last because Jade is the hyper rambunctious one. Um, and then I always supervise their play. So when I have puppies staying with me, I'm always supervising them when they're together. Just because you don't always know if a puppy is like being too obnoxious and then the other dog is like, okay, I've had enough. Like Maddie is so patient with puppies. Like they'll try to climb on her and lick her and she'll just like keep moving her head and like, oh, get away, get away. But it's really good. I've seen her a couple of times growl, like, okay, that's enough, get away. And like not even show her teeth, but just do a growl. And that's appropriate. That's just saying, okay, I've had enough, back off. And if your lab does that, that's totally fine. Um, and make sure that your lab gets breaks. I would say if your lab's 1 year old, then he's not going to be need like too many breaks because he probably has a lot of energy himself. But you always want to supervise. And let's say that the lab is being too rough with the puppy, you want to be able to separate them and give them like a positive timeout, so that they can both like decompress. So that's what I would do. And then just do things that are really fun with them, um, together. So like snuffle mats or um, other things like, oh, it's super fun um, when the puppy's around because we get to do snuffle mats and we get to do the go hunt game, things like that. So just make it really fun when the dogs are together. Yes, Emily, this is still going on. Key. My favorite emergency cue is a French Cheetos. Yeah, that's awesome. It can be any word you want, and if you say like Cheetos, and then that makes the dog like, oh yeah, I'm going this way. That works perfect. That's a good one. Um, let's see. I am okay, Anita. I'm on your question. I have to go really quick to see what my dogs are barking at, and I will be right back. So that was an example of my three of my dogs are outside and a board and train puppy, and the barking was going on for a while. So I went out. There's two people walking their dog in front of the gate or the fence. Um, so I just went out and said, "Okay, guys, that's enough." Um, my three stopped. The puppy board and train hasn't stopped yet, but it's because I haven't trained her yet to do that. So if she continues to bark, she's going to get brought in and put in a crate. So she can't, continue to bark at people. Okay, so Anita, after the hated bath yesterday, she up and ripped up a rug, which she never does. Could she be getting her anger or frustration out? Um, yeah, I mean, I know sometimes dogs get a lot of energy like after a bath. Sometimes they'll get the zoomies. Mine like to go out and like roll in the grass, which then just gets them dirty again. Um, but yes, it could definitely be an anger frustration thing, especially if your dog hates baths. I would try and do some really slow counter conditioning desensitization. There is a really good video on YouTube. Um, I'm just going to put DS for desensitization. I'm going to put it in the chat. So, um, Hurok Patel is an amazing behaviorist, and he actually shows you step by step how to get a dog like used to a bathtub um, and walking in it. But take that concept and then continue on. Like then like turn on the water, give treats, turn the water off. Turn the water on, treats, turn the water off. So that you can change your dog's emotional response. You could also get a lick mat, the one with the suction. I think the Pupford lick mats have the suction cups on them, and put it on the side of the bathtub and let your dog lick off the peanut butter while the bath is going on. Um, just to get her mind off of it. Does that make sense? Um, because we want it to be like, oh, I like getting baths because I get, a lick mat or I get to do something fun. So yes, I think that could definitely be an anger frustration thing. So after a bath, if you know she hates baths and then she's destructive, um, I would maybe tether her to you. So like just put her on a leash, clip her to your belt loop, catch her being calm and reward for that. Um, you could put her in a crate while she dries off. Put her in a crate with a toy or a really good chew item. So like bully stick, yak chew, stuffed frozen Kong, because that will allow her to go in a crate, she'll lick on something that's going to be self-soothing, and kind of let her do that after a bath just to help her with the anxiety part of it. Hi, Cindy. We have not changed it personally, permanently. Geez, I can't even think. Um, they just wanted to try. Pupford wanted to try some different days and times to see if more people join. Um, so that's why they did a poll, and most people put down that they wanted to do Wednesday at 4. So that's why we're doing it Wednesday at 4. Um, if they keep polling, I'm thinking what's probably going to happen is each week we are going to do different days and times to accommodate everybody's schedule. But I'm going to ask them if we can continue to do Wednesday night, since so far everybody really likes Wednesday night. And I'm happy to do 2 a week. I like doing these. So we could always just keep Wednesday night and then do another one at various times during the week. Like we don't just have to keep it to one. And that way other people can join. Unless, so Cindy, I did ask earlier before you jumped on if people like this time better or if they like the Wednesday later time. Most people like this time. Or Wednesday, sorry. Okay, Christina, I have another question, but a recommendation for a parent behavior. My dog was attacked the other day by an aggressive dog. It was pretty scary. I'm so sorry. I hate to hear when that happens. Um, the dog bit her in the neck, and he was a dog with strong jaws that would not release her for nothing during longer than a minute. It took forever to separate them. I myself was on top of the aggressor dog waiting for the release second, and for a moment, okay, oh, that's my place. Oh, I had time to think it was going to turn on me the moment he released my dog. And yes, that can happen. Um, and that's one reason that, um, well, 2 reasons that you don't want to just stick your hand in and grab her collar, because you could get bit and you don't want the dog to redirect. Um, my dog looked at me with desperation the whole time. It was frankly traumatic. Um, I've never been scared of dogs or even fuzzy fights, but this was another level. Um, Trust me, I get it. I have been in that situation where one of my dogs, and my dog was the pit bull, and another dog attacked her, and it was extremely traumatic, and I had nightmares for a while. It took me a long time to get over it. Um, and there's nothing worse and traumatizing than seeing your dog get attacked and not being able to do anything about it. Um, so, a couple things that you can do. Usually, when I'm walking a client's dog or hiking my own dogs, I usually always have water with me. If I like clip something like this to a backpack or have, the camelback bladders, I always carry water because one of the first things I do was dump water over the dog's head, because a lot of times they'll startle and stop, especially with the aggressor, dump it right over his head. Um, that's one thing you can do. Another thing is to try and get something in between them. Um, so, like a garbage can lid, a board, something like that. You could do something called a wheelbarrow method, but you want to be careful and you need 2 people. So, like, I would have the owner of the off leash dog, the aggressor, if they were around, pick up the back legs, and then you pick up the back legs of your dog, and you don't want to pull him away, because if he's latched onto your dog, then it's going to tear. And so you don't want to pull him away, but just pick up his back legs and kind of get him off balance. And then when they're off balance like that, they usually let go. Um, but some dogs will like turn around, and if you keep the dog's legs up and keep them off balance, a lot of times they can't turn back around and bite you. But that's why I would have you pick up your own dog and have the other owner pick up their own dog, so that if the dog does turn around and redirect, at least he's getting bit by his own dog. Um, and yeah, it is terrifying. Let's see. So I've been walking my dog, but I'm trying to keep experiences positive and control to avoid any fear. We have many strays here in Kosovo. Um, I notice myself very tense during the walks mostly. I'm protecting my dog's wound. She still has stitches in herself, but she's totally okay. I am not. Um, Another thing that you could do is it's kind of a learned behavior when you say, like, what can I do to avoid putting out your stress on the dog? One thing is, the more that you know, the better. So if you start to practice like defensive handling techniques, I would start carrying citronella spray with you, or again, water. Citronella spray it's not harmful to the dog, but they don't like the smell of it, and you want to aim right for the nose, because you want them to sneeze, because that's going to make them let go. Sometimes people will start yelling and kicking and hitting a dog, but that can honestly amp up some dogs more, and it can make it worse. But learning different methods, like the wheelbarrow method, one thing you can do as a last resort, but you have to be really careful to not get bit while you're doing this. But you can do something like called choking them off, which you would never do any other time except if a dog has another dog in their mouth and they're not letting go. And basically, you just pull straight up on the collar, and it cuts off their airway, and so they let go. But then you don't want to just let go, because the dog could turn around and redirect on you, or go back to the dog. So you want to keep that collar up until you can get away with your dog. So if you have another person there, or the owner there, or something like that, tell them to keep a hold of their dog while you get out of there. But the more things that you have, knowing, okay, if something happens, I have citronella spray. Things like, what else do I use? Um, you could make up a little spray bottle of white vinegar, because again, it's not going to harm the dog, but it is going to burn and make them sneeze, and they don't like it. So um, the citronella stuff's called Spray Shield. You can get it on Amazon. I have made up my own little bottles, spray bottles of white vinegar and lemon juice, and like aim right for the nose and the eyes to get them to let go. Um, so the more that you know and the more prepared you are, and this is one of the hardest things. I teach a lot of reactive dog classes, and part of the hardest thing is getting the owners to be calm and confident, so that their dogs don't feed off of that. Um, but practicing a really good let's go, and practicing different things. If another dog like is starting to come at you, try like treat bombing the other dog. So take a handful of treats and throw it right at the other dog's face, And I usually try to carry something really good like hot dogs or cheese or something like that. 95% of the time, the dog will stop to eat the treats or whatever you're throwing at them. Sometimes, if a dog is like really truly aggressive and really wants to do harm, sometimes they won't. But if you can get something between the two dogs, you could do that. I know some people who hike with an umbrella, even in the middle of the summer, and they open the umbrella and just keep it right in front of them to keep the other dog back, and so the dog like can't get to your dog. Um, and I would practice. I would just practice a lot. Let me go back and see. With your dog, is your dog like a large dog or a small dog? Because one thing you can do is just pick your dog up. Now, I can't do that because I have pit bulls, and um, three of mine I could pick up, but my fourth one, there's no way. So I'm sorry that happened. It is so scary, and I can't tell you how traumatizing that is. I've had that happen twice. And the one time I called animal control on the guy because he didn't even say he was sorry, didn't ask how my dog was. He basically left. Like I said, hey, don't leave. Your dog just attacked my dog. And he got in his car and left. But I was able to find out who he was and where he lived. And I called animal control and they asked me if I wanted to press charges or have him get a fine. And I said yes. If he would have been nice about it and apologetic and offered to pay vet bill and all that stuff, I probably wouldn't have done it. But because he was such a jerk, I did. Um, but just kind of knowing, and one thing I do in reactive dog classes, I always have them practice. So we go on what we call training walks. So we're walking and we'll practice like, let's go, and we'll practice turning and going the other way. And we always practice this under threshold without the other dog. So there's no other dog, but we're practicing it just so the dog really learns it. So that then when you do need it, you can do it. I practice treat bombs. I treat an imaginary person. Um, I carry the citronella or the lemon juice stuff with you so that it just kind of gives you more confidence so that you know if something happens, I have this and I can save my dog. And then depending where you are, sometimes you can put something between the two dogs. I know of some people like off a coat or something and like over the aggressor's head so that then they can't see. But again, you don't want to pull away if they have a hold. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of different techniques that you can do to kind of help you gain some confidence. Um, then when you said like today she ended up throwing quite a tantrum during our work or during our walk. Yeah, it's probably still traumatic. I would honestly not take your dog for a walk for at least 3 or 4 days. Your dog's probably in pain. It's still really traumatic. Um, and so you want to give her a chance to not be in pain anymore and give her a chance to like get all that adrenaline and stuff out. And then if you have a dog walker, try to avoid areas which I know it's probably hard in Kosovo where you have a lot of like loose street dogs. If you can try to go on walks in areas where you're not likely to see other dogs. So like when I go hiking, I try to go on trails that aren't heavily populated, or I bushwhack or something, um, just so that that kind of stuff doesn't happen. So if you have that option, to hike at a time or in a place where there's not a lot of other dogs, I would do that. And then I would always carry something with you that you can use as as a protection. And again, if somebody else is there, and it sounds like that this might have just been a stray like street dog, which has been hard. But one thing that even like you can do is you could choke a dog off, but I would be careful about like redirecting because you're going to need help. If you grab the collar and pull straight up and the dog lets go, then you're still going to need to like get your dog and get out of there because as soon as you let go, the dog's going to go back. So you kind of need two people and you need somebody to help you. So yeah, that can be really really tough. So let me know if you can always email me. I will look at my stuff and see if I have any other recommendations for you. But it's scary and it's a bad situation. I'm really hoping that um, your dog doesn't become traumatized um, because some dogs can like then they become aggressive and fearful of other dogs because this happened. So you really want to keep every interaction with your dog and other dogs really positive. Um, okay, let's see. See, my dog is leash reactive and a giant. I no longer do unleash walks unless I'm sure I am in a solid state of mind. Um, yeah, and that's great advice. If you're nervous, your dog's going to pick up on that. So I would then not go on walks. If you have a yard, you can also do more mental stimulation like snuffle mats, treat toys, like treat dispensing toys, nose work, things like that are also going to, tire your dog out. Yes, your dog still needs exercise, but I think there's other ways that you can get it, like a flirt pole, playing tug, like playing fetch in your house, like things like that, where your dog can still get exercise without having to go out. Um, oh, Anita, you already did that. You smeared the bathtub with peanut butter. Um, Cindy, what do you think of Facebook's new name? I did not know that Facebook had a new name, honestly. Um, oh, it'll still be Facebook, but the owning company has changed. Yeah, see, I didn't know anything. I didn't know any of that. Um, and Cindy, the times will always be mountain time. So like this was 4 p.m. mountain time. On Wednesdays when we do Wednesdays at 6 p.m. mountain time. So I always usually post mountain time. Um, okay, Julie, I did the water thing with my two in the beginning when Dakota used to attack Ellie at works. Um, yes. So the water works well. And Brian, yes, an air horn can work really well. Again, it depends on the dog. Some dogs, if they're just wired wrong and they get pleasure, there are some dogs that just get pleasure out of attacking other dogs. And that's their reinforcer. So it's hard to redirect them to a different reinforcer. Um, but yes, an air horn can interrupt. Um, with some dogs, it could actually scare them and make it worse. But we did use air horns at the shelter, and we also used water. So yes, that's another one. I would honestly take several things. I would take water, but a lot. So like a big water thing like this. So you have enough to drink, but if you need to dump a whole thing of water over a dog's head, do it. And then, carry the citronella spray or an air horn It's called like there's one called Pet Corrector, which is just compressed air, which makes a really weird sound. Vinegar, yes, and I would carry two or three things, um, just because if one thing doesn't work, you want to be able to try another thing. Um, Speaking of water, key. I think feeling prepared for the crisis situation is major. Yep, I agree. My current problem with throwing treats is that other dogs want them too. Um, I've simply stepped in between two fighters, not including my own. Yeah, and sometimes you can do that and it works. Sometimes it can actually cause you to get bit, and we don't want you to get bit. So yes, it depends on the situation. You know when they say like don't reach in and grab a dog. One of my clients' dogs got in a fight with another dog, and everybody just stood there. So I'm the one that had to break it up. And so I was waiting for the right time to reach in because I knew I only had to grab one dog's collar and pull him off. But I go to reach in and they would kind of move, and I'm like, oh, I can't, I'll get bit. And I had to wait for the right time to like then grab and kind of lift up on the collar for the dog to let go. And then once he let go, he was like totally fine. So that part was lucky. And the other dog was not hurt at all. Um, so if, I mean, if there's a lot of street dogs and you throw treats, um, like throw them right at the aggressor's face. But even if the other dogs want them too, at least it's going to give you time to turn around and go the other way because all you want to do is get out of there. And so it's just like treat bomb them, pick up your dog if you can, or if you can't, like then just say let's go and like get out of there as fast as you can. Um, Go in a building, like go in a car, something that has a door where you can, get into a safe place. Cindy, what is proper etiquette when walking dogs in our community that is friendly, but other residents get annoyed when they see others going their way? Um, I'm not sure I understand that. Let me read it again. Um, oh, so everybody rents there, and you have dogs at your place, but other people just get annoyed because you're walking your dog. I would say let them get annoyed. Like you have every right to walk your dog, and as long as your dog's like not barking and growling and lunging and being obnoxious with other people, if they don't like it, then they can go walk somewhere else. But if you're just out walking your dog, you have every right. If I know somebody's afraid of a dog of dogs, like I have a really good friend that's really afraid of dogs, and so I don't let my dogs go up and say hi to her. I just keep them with me, and we just walk right by. So I think proper etiquette is just like walking by, not letting your dog pull over there, not letting your dog especially jump on people, um, things like that, so that it doesn't give them any ammunition to say like we don't want dogs here in our community because they jump and they bark and stuff like that. So yeah, if you have people that like think they own the place and um, don't like it, I would just say too bad. Like if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Key. I've read that the hyperarousal can last 3 days. Yes, and that's why I was saying it can last like 48 to 72 hours. So yes, you don't want to introduce other dogs during that time. And if you have more than one dog in your home, I would even keep them separated. For sure. Okay. We walk and then keep our dog by our side and let them walk by. Yeah. Another thing that I've done, so I walk with a guy. He's 84 and has a puppy, And when we walk, because this puppy like loves to jump on people, and we're still working on impulse control. Um, One thing that we'll do, and this is kind of what Deb is saying, is I'll step off the path or the sidewalk, and I'll do a come front and have the dog come and sit in front of me and focus on me for treats, and I let the other person pass. And I'll just say, we're going to let you pass, and then we'll finish our walk. And it's mainly because this dog is still learning leash manners, and like that we don't want her to pull over to people. So once the dog can just walk by somebody, we'll just walk by. But if we can, or if there's too much traffic to cross the street, then I'll just step off, bring the dog up to me, and let them go by. So that's another thing that you can do. Nicole, in my town, there are a lot of loose dogs, so I'm worried something like this could happen. Yes, and um, it actually can happen anytime. And where I live, there's a lot of loose dogs. So um, Deb just gave me a great idea that I just thought about. So she's seen vests that they make for smaller dogs that have spikes on them. So I've seen people take prong collars, and you know that in this group we don't use the versties or prong collars, but I know somebody that had prong collars. Like I used to use them 20 years ago, and I think I threw all mine away. But they turned it inside out and put that around their dog, so it was the spike end that's out. Um, and yeah, you could do it for any dog, small or large. And so the prong end is out, and so if the dog goes to bite, then they it kind of hurts because they get the prong. So yes, Deb, thank you, because I knew there was more things, and I totally forgot about that. I didn't know about the vest that has like spikes on them, but I'm sure if they make them for small dogs, they'll make them for larger dogs. But you could do like a reverse prong collar where instead of the prong going into your dog's neck, the prong part is out. So if the dog comes up, usually they go like right for the face or the neck, but then they're not going to be able to harm your dog because the spikes are right there. Um, okay, so let's see. Just to clarify, by putting out the tension on the dog, I meant panicking too early. Um, yep, and yeah, it's hard when you can't pick them up. Um, Getting her out of the way by dragging her out. Yes, I would just kind of do a let's go and try to get out. Even if you have to drag your dog a little bit, I would just say, come on, we're going this way, let's go. No, you're not going to go see that dog. Come on, we're going this way. And just keep interacting and engaging and get your dog out of there as fast as you can. Um, and yes, I went through sleepless nights. I went through being afraid to walk my dogs around other dogs and things like that. And it took a long time. Like it really took a long time. But now I think one of the things that helps me is I always know that I'm prepared. Like I always have something with me that is going to be able to help. Um, for really severe things, and in this form, I don't really know like how much I should share as far as techniques, but one of the attacks that happened was really bad and really traumatic, and I started carrying um oh, what are they called? It's like a taser. It's not the taser that the cops use that puts the little sharp ends in you, but um it's like what you could carry at night if you're walking. I asked, and if you tase a dog, it will render them like not unconscious but paralyzed long enough for you to get away. So that would be a really extreme nothing else is working, I can't get this dog off, um, then you could pull out something like that because you're going to be close anyway. Um, but again, with anything that you use, there is a chance that the dog's going to suddenly let go and redirect to you. So if you do something, make sure you do it really well, um, so that the dog is like either sneezing, trying to get stuff out of their face, is on the ground because you just tased them, um, and things like that, so that you have a chance to get away. But yeah, I like the idea of the vest with the spikes, and then I would also do it around the neck. And then yes, just give yourself time to be calm and give your dog some time to get over it as well. Um, Pepper spray, yes, stun gun. That's what I was trying to think of. Um, I've never heard that a stun gun locks their jaws, but I have heard that it just kind of like will make them let go, and they're kind of paralyzed for a bit long enough for you to get out of there. And I either asked a police officer or animal control if it would cause long term damage to the dog, and they said no. But it does allow your dog to stay, um, or it does allow you enough time to get away. So yes, that's what I was thinking about was stun gun. So anyway, I am so sorry that happened. Like I said, I've been through it, and it is scary and it's traumatic. Um, I think it's a learned behavior. I definitely have had to learn how to be calm. But working in rescue and working around it a lot, I just learned how to act and not get excited. Which I don't know how to tell other people how to do it because I just kind of had to learn. But I try to always make sure that I'm prepared. And when I've been walking reactive dogs and loose dogs have come and run up to us, I just always say, "Oh, let's go! Come on, we're going this way. Going this way. Let's go." And sometimes I'll yell at the other dog, like, "Get out of here! Go away! Go on!" And I'll like throw treats at it and things like that. It is different if there is an owner there that can help with their dog. If these are just loose street dogs, then yeah, it can be a little bit more scary. Um, you can also like take off a jacket or take something off and feed it to the dog. So get something else in their mouth and then turn around and go away. That's another one that you can do. Um, yeah, and so going back to Cindy's question, yeah, sometimes other people can be annoying, and I would say as long as your dog is good, um, I wouldn't really worry. And Cindy recommended pepper spray. Yes, there is a kind of spray deterrent that I also carry, and it is more of a pepper spray. So this is something that you could use more on like a large breed dog that could really cause damage to your dog. Citronella works pretty well, but I've seen it not work on some dogs. So that's why I always have like two or three backup things that I use. Um, and But yes, pepper spray, you can get that from Amazon too, and it's just called animal deterrent pepper spray. So I think having that with you is going to help you feel more confident and just know that, it's going to be fine. Okay. Wow, you guys had some great questions. We started out slow and then we ended up going 2 hours. That's awesome. Um, okay, let me just make sure that I've answered everything and then we'll do a drawing. And again, if if there's any of the handouts you want, let me know and I will send them to you. Now I can hear my cousin's dog is outside barking, drives me crazy. Yeah, and other people are giving you great advice too. Air horn vinegar. I've heard white vinegar works really well. I think I've answered everything. I'm just going through. You know, Nicole, where I live, it's a very dog friendly town, but everybody wants their dog off leash, and everybody thinks that every dog should love all of their dogs, and that's not the case. So we have a problem here too with loose dogs. It can be really um, hard. So okay, so let's go ahead and do a drawing. And then I will post something as to when next week is. I'm assuming it'll be Wednesday night again, unless they want to try something different. Okay, and tonight's winner is Deb. You don't need to know, or you don't need to know. You do. I don't know how you say it. You don't need to know. From Maryland. So, congratulations, Deb. You are tonight's winner. Key, where do you post? I actually post on the Zach George Perfect Pup Facebook page. So that's where I post it. And I usually do it either the day before. This week, because we were changing days, I posted it on Monday. Just saying this week it'll be on Thursday. Then I did it again on Wednesday, reminding everybody that it would be today and not last night. So this week I posted it more just because there was a change, but I usually always post it that morning. But if we keep changing days and times, I will post something towards the first of the week just so you know. But yes, always look on the Perfect Pup, the Zach George Facebook page. That's where I post everything. And I'm also on there almost every day answering training questions. So if you have questions that I didn't answer, feel free to email me. Sorry, oh, Deb. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to email hello@pupford.com and tell them what kind of training treats you want, and they will send them to you. I will also email them and let them know. And as long as okay, I'll put it in for you. As long as that is your if they can identify you by your like Facebook name, and if they look that up and there's an address and stuff there, what I would do if I were you, Deb, is just email hello@pupford.com and say, I won the live Facebook drawing. This is the kind of treats I want. This is my address. And then they'll send them to you. Okay, so it's called the Zach George Perfect Pup. Now I can't remember. Is it Perfect Pup? Oh, it's okay. Wait, I got it wrong. Let's see. I can pull it up again. It's called Pupford's 30-Day Perfect Pup with Zach George. I believe that's the name of the Facebook page. So that's where I post. Um, okay, so anybody else have any last minute questions? So Deb, you know what to do. You're going to email. I'm going to email them as well. And then I'll post when next week is. And yes, everybody have a happy and safe Halloween. Have fun, but keep your dog safe. And thanks for joining tonight. That was great. And I'll see you guys all next week. Okay, talk to you soon.